Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And my topic for today is grafts in a contracted socket. And thank you, Dr. Sonal, and all the speakers before me for making it more easy for me. So, the goals of an anophthalmic socket is very clear and has already been discussed. And yes, the most commonly used classification is the Gopal Krishnan classification of a contracted socket. Now, when you look at a contracted socket, it is very essential to ask for a proper history and assess clinically. Why? Because you need to not just look at the soft tissue contracture, you also need to look at a bony contracture in cases of congenital anophthalmos or any injury in childhood. Soft tissue contracture, as very well mentioned by Dr. Sonal, mainly we look at the volume, we look at the surface, and very importantly, we also look at the surface lining. You have to look at whether the socket is moist or it is dry, and Schummer's definitely helps here. So, as etiology is already mentioned, it can be congenital, it can be iatrogenic, it can be malignant because of multiple injuries. Now, as you look at this, these are the three most important things as I was just stressing on. One is volume. Second is the phonesis, that is the posterior lamella and the lining. And third, we should not forget the anterior lamella, the periocular tissue as well, because that is also very important in assessing while you want to plan and give the patient a very good cosmetic outcome. So, well, we have multiple grafts that you can use in a contracted socket, depending upon whether you want volume, you want surface, or you want volume plus surface. So for the surface, you have the mucous membrane graft, which can be taken from the lip or the buccal mucosa. You can use an AMT, which is a substrate graft, that is the amniotic membrane graft. And for the lower lid, of forming the phonesis, you can actually use the spacer graft. You can use a hard palate graft, spacer graft, or you can even use a free tarsal from the upper lid. If you have like a very malignant, contracted, dry socket, many a times you can also line the entire socket with a skin graft. It can be a split skin graft or it can be a full thickness skin graft. And for the volume, dermis fat graft is very beautiful. It's a composite graft which can give you the surface as well as it can give you the volume. Yes, you have autologous free fat graft also, which gives you good volume. Along with that, it also enhances your periocular skin. You augment it with PRP and the results are beautiful there. And if nothing else works, yes, we go ahead with free flaps and microvascular free flaps. So coming on to the mucous membrane graft, as I said, we normally harvest it either from the lip or you harvest it from the buccal mucosa. It is very important that you do not cross the midline A, and B, when you're doing it from the buccal mucosa, there are two things that you have to keep in mind. One is the position, the second molar, and you should not damage the parotid duct that is there. You get a very good clamp that you can actually clamp the cheek with so that you have a very good hold on to that. Measure the socket depending upon how much defect you have. Now, mucous membrane grafts can be done in two ways. One, you either line completely in the center and expand the tissue so that your actual tissue which is there goes off into the phonesis. Or second, you do it independently into two layers. You form the inferior and the superior fornix separately as well. It is a surgeon's choice. So here, as you see, this is a case of a grade 3 contracted socket. We have superior as well as inferior phoneal contracture. You also have a volume deficit here. So what we've done is we've taken a central incision right at the center and placed a nice big MMG for this patient. You can see here there is this inferior phoneal contracture as well as a superior phoneal contracture, and this is the patient post-operatively. You can see there's still a little volume loss. You can see superior sulcus deformity, but the patient is doing much better and is able to retain the shell. Here, this is another patient with a congenital anophthalmos. As you can see that we've been giving her conformers, serially enlarging conformers, and then finally she's come to the stage. We've done a ball implant here, and if you see for the superior and inferior fornix, we've done a small MMG superiorly and inferiorly. Finally, she's able to actually retain the prosthesis here. Now, another case where you just have a grade 1 or a grade 2 contracture, you can actually just incise in that area, put a nice AMT, and take superior fornix forming sutures or inferior fornix forming sutures as well. Now, here is a case where you can see that there is a little bit conjunctival hypertrophy and shelving of the inferior fornix. It is a case of grade 1 contracture. You can see that there was a lower lid retraction here, as well as there's a very subtle hypo here. So what did we do here? We just took an autologous free fat and we injected into the lower lid and a little bit into the orbit. You can see that the lower lid retraction has beautifully been early. While I was going through the literature, I also came across a very interesting article where they've actually used a scleral graft to line the surface so that it improves the surface lining, and they have then allowed allowed the sclera to heal. At 2 weeks, they've given and subjected it to low-level laser therapy so that it enhances the healing, and you can see the beautiful result here at the end of the procedure at last follow-up. Now, dermis fat graft, as I was mentioning, is a beautiful graft. It's a composite graft which can also give you surface as well as it can give you a good volume. And the indications are definitely in a contracted socket where you have a previous implant exposure or a malignant socket. But most importantly here is you have to have a good vascular bed. If you have a good vascular bed, your grafts will take up. So the procedure is pretty simple. You have multiple sites where you can harvest the DFG from. It can either be from the abdomen, it can be from the gluteal area, or it can even be from the forearm or the inner aspect of the thigh. So we normally use a gluteal area, and we have a limitation there because the height we can go only up to the 20 millimeters, because post that you have the gluteal muscle, and 20 into 20 is the ideal size that you can take for the surface. Now if you want more volume, you can go in more obliquely and you can take more fat which is there. The surface need not be very large per se. Once you have done that, you can take an incision right in the center as shown here in the diagram, harvest it and then suture it. Wait for it at least for about, DFG normally takes about 3 to 4 months on an average to epithelize. Now here is a case which was a non-epithelizing DFG. It was 6 months post-surgery, still not epithelized. And look at this here. We just added PRP drops topically and the epithelization just accelerated. Another thing that can happen in pediatric age group with the DFG is you can have a hypertrophy of the fat, which is seen in this patient. You can see there's proptosis and down rolling of this prosthesis. Here you just debulk the DFG. Many a times you can get fat necrosis, you can get fat atrophy also, and we must be prepared for it. Normally we harvest about 10 to 20% more of the dermis fat graft. While going through the literature, I found something very interesting where you can do a composite graft, harvest the hard palate along with the dermis fat graft, so that way you can form the fornix as well and give volume also into the socket. So we tried the same on this patient. You can see beautiful result. She's retaining the prosthesis very well. The entropion as well as the lower lid retraction is well taken care of. Here is another example of a patient post DFG and LPS plication, and look at the result. It's quite beautiful. Now I'll just quickly run through this video of autologous free fat because I think it does wonders when you have a volume deficiency. Also for the periocular skin, it actually enhances the periocular skin, gives a very good cosmetic outcome. We normally take it from the abdomen. We just take a small incision, use Coleman's dry technique to actually harvest the fat, and by centrifugation, we let the fat settle down and separate the serum from the same. And once the fat is ready, you can inject it into the periocular area as well as into the socket. Depending on where you want to inject, you can either inject into the deep lateral or you can inject into the medial conal space in order to augment the volume. As you can see here in this patient, she had a volume deficit. After AUFG, you can see that there is good increase in the volume here. Like I was mentioning, you can do split skin grafts in case of malignant socket.
Dr. Sonam? Yeah.
Yes. I'll conclude with that. You can do multiple flaps also. Just a take-home message would be not to forget your orbital anatomy also and your bony contracture. And yes, assess the socket history, and please, we need to give a realistic picture to the patients and have a good ocularist hands-on. I'd like to thank, these are my acknowledgements. And I'd like to invite everybody to please come for TNOA, which is happening in August. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sonam. That was a wonderful talk regarding very important tools in our toolbox as an ocular surgeon for managing sockets.